What's going on out there, everybody? Thanks so much for tuning into your soul mapping astro weather report for July 29th, 2019. I'm Thomas, and the Astro Weather Report is where I synthesize astrology and the 64 hologenetic archetypes to give you a better idea of some of the energies that will be at play today from the genetic all the way on up to the cosmic levels. Well, Mercury is about to go direct, but we are not out of the woods yet, and we are definitely still feeling this Uranus Sun square. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm ready to just take the fucking band-aid off already on some of this energies, but there's still a few more things that have to kind of shift around and sort of contort and be revealed and finely tuned before we move through some of this energy and get a little bit more ease and grace later on in the week. For starters, the sun and the earth have moved under the 31.6 and the 41.6, and this is going to be very interesting with all the other aspects that we have going on, because we're also leading up to this new moon in Leo. That's going to be an amazing feeling as we shift into that new energy. But before we do, we have a little bit of tweaks and shifts to work out. So with the sun and the earth on the 31 and the 41.6, this is like where we're really starting to be objective about a lot of these different details when it comes to, elected leadership, when it comes to playing out these different dynamics of, we're really trying to find this balance in the arrogance and expectation, where we're really looking objectively at different expectations that are coming up and, trying to differentiate them from really just kind of like delusion and fantasy. We really have to narrow things down here and collectively, even as small little tribal type collectives, but really there's a much larger game at play here amongst the entire collective, as we're in the middle of a major mutation with all this energy on the 41, but we're about to switch it up, and these are where all of the cards are kind of coming on the table in one way or another, and we really have to be objective, but also start to look into the future a lot. Now, the moon is moving through Cancer still, and today it's going to conjunct the North Node, and it's going to conjunct Mercury. When it conjuncts the North Node, it is going to be making a weak trine over to Neptune. And this is really important because, the moon is delivering us some energy conjuncting this North Node on the 53.3, where we're really having to innovate on some unexpected things when it comes to starting these new projects that are going to provide us more comfort and home and security and feeling like we're connected with the tribe and really getting into that place of emotional comfort and security, and a lot of unexpected things that can come up in those different areas in our lives. And we really have to figure out ways to innovate and be graceful as we're jumping into these new collective ways of operating. Now, these are really pushing forth some immense growth for all of us, and it's really asking for us to take off a lot of these subconscious masks and to really look through the different possibilities of being tuned in psychically and emotionally and sensitively to other people's feelings and their needs, and to really what's going on behind the veil and behind the mask, and really being open to that. Now, we can also be sensitive, extremely sensitive in this, trying to other people's energy, their kind of projections onto us and what they may be feeling and thinking about us, and that can get really interesting. Even though this is a trine, there can be like so much going on behind the surface that really has to be carefully navigated, especially because we have Mars on the 7.5 conjunct Juno that's making a quincunx over to Neptune. And with all this energy on the 7 and the 31, this is completing this full channel of the 31-7 that's all about leadership. But now, if we look at this objectively, like is being called for today, the tension is over there on Mars on the 7. So it's like that tension of the alpha, right? The one who just kind of like jumps in and egotistically takes charge and wants to just kind of push forward with whatever it wants. And it's making this quincunx over to Neptune there in the 22. So there's really some stuff, a lot of behind the surface stuff, really like hidden aspects going on, and that's going to cause some tension, really some things maybe around deeper subconscious things that really need to come out and need to be worked through, but it really maybe not being done in the most graceful way with this tension. But because this is activating this whole channel, this is really what needs to be worked through in this mutation, right? Like, in order for this to work on a collective level, going towards that north node that all the energy wants to move into to give us that comfort and security, we have to work through these tensions from that sort of like alpha take charge leadership, because everything really is pointing more towards the direction of the collective right now, and making these decisions more objectively and democratically in different ways. But we do have to figure out a way to balance that kind of alpha energy, because it is needed in certain situations. But then we also have Venus that's starting to come into its square with Uranus. So this could be showing us and giving us another window into this, where there's this really major up-leveling and of value going on, where we're going to be start to directing new values into the entire tribe and collective. There's going to be a lot of nourishment needed, and we have to balance those things, and that can be challenging, because it's like, imagine jumping into this situation where all this collective energy and this massive mutation on a planetary level is taking place and really needs to happen before we move into these new areas of really just shining and celebration around all of this stuff. But there's things that have to be planted and worked through, and it's like all this collective decision making going on, it's like, where do we actually find time for ourselves and what we need? And that can be a little bit challenging, and new unexpected levels of value can come into play, asking for us to really level up. And then we also have these aspects going on with Chiron on the 17. Mercury is going to be on the 62 as it conjuncts the moon. So it's asking us to really, really pay attention to all the details here. And the wind's kicking up right now, of course, and it's making this swirling action, showing that this is a very important part to pay attention to. It's like, with these aspects over to Chiron in the 17 and then also in the 62, this is a full channel in itself, and this is really saying that it's important to look into the long-term future, to really have that foresight when it comes to what's being developed as a collective. But we also need to pay attention to a lot of these little details when it comes to working things out, and the precision and impeccability of our language, and how we can navigate things when we're dealing with all of these unexpected opinions, right? Because there can be opinions swirling around all over the place, saying like, how can we deal with this? How can we deal with that? We need to pay attention to the specifics of this and what's going to work out the best for the collective structure as we move forward. But we all really just want to feel good and party at the same time with all of this energy in Leo. But it's important to work out these details before we can actually pay attention to that energy, because if we're all going to be getting together for a party and the details aren't worked out of how we're going to operate in that party in the collective, then how is that going to play out? There's going to be disasters that may take place, or there's just going to be more tension and chaos that's going to come up. And so it's really important to pay attention to those things, and also be really sensitive to the collective healing that's taking place as well, especially with all this energy in Cancer. We're still in the middle of this Cancer eclipse, right? And we're right now we're getting to the head of what this portal is about before we move into this new moon in Leo. And so yeah, we have to work out all these pieces so we can step forward in our co-creative full confidence of our embodied lion selves in the middle of this lion's gate, right? The lion wants to come through, but in order for the lion to come through, it has to have its home set. Has that comfort. That all comes in Cancer, right? Because Cancer comes before Leo. If those things aren't set, the lion can't have its pride. It can't take care of things. It can't like go out and hunt and be its Leo self in its comfortable in the setting, because we have to work all these things out. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Please like, comment, or share. And as always, tap into your innermost authority. See if it feels right for you. And thanks for tuning in to the Astral Weather Report.